Ursarctic has always been something of a favorite pick of mine in alt formats. I say, like I play more than one, but I don't get many chances to actually play it in advanced. There are a lot of reasons why, but when the new support dropped in Master Duel, I figured, why not? And honestly, it's been an absolute blast. There's only one in Archetype UR, because basically everything has been in since day one, and they used to print cards at low rarity in this game, which is really nice. To briefly catch up anyone unfamiliar with the deck, the Ursarctics can be divided into two-ish classes. The level 8 tuners and the level 7 non-tuners, and then there's also Ursarctic Alpha, who's quirky and not like the other girls. All the standard Ursarctics share the same effect, where you contribute a level 7 or higher monster to special summon themselves from your hand during either player's main phase. This effect locks you out of summoning any monsters that don't have levels. The non-tuners have on-summon effects that recoup advantage or balance out their cost, McPolar adding an Ursarctic monster from deck to hand, McTanis adding an Ursarctic monster from grave to hand, and McBillis can special another Ursarctic from hand to let you get that monster's effect without a tribute. Ursarctic Alpha, quirky little goofball that it is, can special summon itself without tributes if you control another Ursarctic, or Drytron, and adds an Ursarctic, or Drytron, back row in the process. Notably, adding while summoning means your opponent is able to ash your extender, so watch out for that, I guess. The tuners, meanwhile, all feature some form of minor disruption on summon. Megapolar is MST, Megatanis is Book of Moon, and Megabillis is the worst DD Crow ever conceived because of how chain links work. The stipulation that keeps the Megas from activating on an empty field means that while the deck is technically capable of turn 0 interaction, it takes a name-dense hand and forces you to go extremely minus to mount even the smallest amount of pressure on the wrong turn. These monsters all act in service of their Synchros, which you summon not by adding the levels of tuners together, but by subtracting them. The first Synchro is Polari, a level 1 Synchro that activates the field spell on summon, and can tribute a level 7 or higher monster to add back or reborn an Ursarctic engrave. Polari's main goal is to just get the field spell into rotation, but it's also the way you salvage hands where you don't have the gas to go all the way off by, at minimum, giving any way to a tuner and a non-tuner away to the next Synchro, Septentrion. Septentrion is the main boss of the deck, with a fat 3000 attack, an effect to search any Ursarctic card when your opponent special summons, and finally an effect that negates any Xyz or Link monster effects on the field. You may be looking at that skill drain effect and thinking, wow, that really sucks, this dude is just a really big Rhoda against half the decks in the game. And you'd be right, if not for Ursarctic Polar Star. Polar Star is another level 1 Synchro, same deal as Polari, but this time with a good effect. You contribute both Polar Star and a level 8 bear from your hand or field to cheat out any of your 7-star Ursarctic Synchros, with an added effect that prevents your opponent from activating the effects of monsters with levels summoned from the extra deck. Now, the astute among you may have noticed something very specific about this card, but not everyone may have gotten it right away, so I'll give you a few seconds to give the card another once over. Now, what part of this card do you think the most important thing is? Is it A, preventing activations rather than negating effects, B, the lack of a once per turn, C, the funny ass art, or D, the effects destroy spells and traps? If you answer D, the effect to destroy spells and traps, hey, buddy, eyes over here. I know you're not paying attention, this card doesn't do that. The correct answer is that lack of a once per turn. The reason why this matters is because of the field spell we activated courtesy of Polari earlier in this turn, Ursarctic Big Dipper. Big Dipper has a few effects. The first and most relevant to Polar Star is that it allows you to banish a bear from your grave instead of tributing a monster to pay for an Ursarctic effect. This means one Polar Star can cheat out not just one, but 2 Synchros with that bonus effect. It also gains 1 counter for every special summon that happens while it's face up, and if a monster is special summoned while you control an Ursarctic Synchro, you can target a monster your opponent controls and permanently steal it. That Snatch Steal effect sounds ridiculous because, like, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! You can summon 7 times super easily. But the simple truth of the matter is that either your opponent will find an out to your Synchros unless you can build the full board, and if you build the full board, you won't have the space to steal the monster anyway. It's still a strong backup plan, but won't happen all too often. But how can we take advantage of Polar Star not being once per turn? As good as Septentrion is, it doesn't exactly do anything in multiples. The effect is searches once per turn, and unfortunately having 2 skill drains doesn't negate anything harder. The solution? Grand Chariot. Grand Chariot is Septentrion's best friend, because Grand Chariot is protection for Septentrion. Really shitty protection, but still protection. On summon, Grand Chariot can target and destroy up to 2 cards on either field, but also it has an effect to tribute any monster from hand or field to negate the activation of a card or effect that targets an Ursarctic. Notably, that negate, while underwhelming, is soft once per turn and isn't locked to Ursarctic monsters. You can use it to protect back row too, and unlike Septentrion, Grand Chariot does get better in multiples. But you aren't playing Ursarctic for the monsters. No, if you know anything about Ursarctic, you know radiation. This card single-handedly makes Ursarctic go from gutter trash to a deck that can compete with sharks. Look, drawing 7 sounds like it's all hookers and blow until you realize you have to summon 7 Ursarctics to do it. Notably, it does have a finite number of draws total. There's no way to refresh the counters, so frequently you'll have to find some way to remove your own radiation mid-combo to keep the gravy train going. Your in-archetype method of doing so is Grand Chariot's pop, but a lot of your sub-engines will also interact with spent radiations, which we'll get into later. The most frustrating part of radiation is that it is still random draws. Even if you open a fantastic starting 5, you are still playing off the top deck, and if you don't properly hedge your bets to prepare for bad draws, you'll end up breaking on non-engine and have to pass on some pretty awful boards. It can also recycle cards every end phase, which is extremely helpful. Being able to refill your extra or put bears back into the deck is massive for what little grind games you'll be playing. The last card worth really talking about in Engine is Ursarctic Departure. Departure is a search spell. That's good, but it's one of those bad ones that costs a discard, and like, yeah, it searches 2 cards, but actually what it says is your opponent discards 1 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, and this deck can't really afford to go down to a 3-card grip unless you have Radiation and a name already. Stack the top deck for perfect draws, and then flood the room with a Deadly Toxin to prevent the opponent from interacting with you further. It can also banish itself from the grave to replace the tribute cost of an Ursarctic, which is amazing, but you can't do it the turn it's sent to the graveyard, because God forbid they let you use this card to search 2 monsters to summon instead of just 1 monster and tribute fodder for said other monster. Because of the way these pieces all flow together, you need to draw very specific types of hands to pop off with the bears. You need to find a tuner, a way to radiation, a non-tuner, which is usually the way to radiation, and tribute fodder for everything. Because you really need a 4 to 5 card hand of gas and more names off the top from radiation to keep going, you're forced to engage in some truly Cro-Magnon deck building practices. Just play 3 of every monster, it'll shake out. Except McBillis. He sucks, but somehow in a worse way than any of the other little goofs. Despite literally only being able to play 1 more name than you are already, you do still have to open hands like this sometimes though. Now let's talk sub-engines. A common one you'll find in Ursarctic lists is the drivers, righty and lefty. These to provide a 1-card Polari or Polar Star, as if you decline the effect of righty to increase their level, you have a tuner that's 1 level lower than your non-tuner. At worst, if you don't need an Ursarctic Synchro, you can turn these two into negation by increasing righty's level and making Herald of the Arclight. I am not playing the drivers. They're good cards, and I do like how they can simplify routing, but space is kind of a massive issue with the deck because of the 10 IQ ratios that are forced upon you if you want to play off the top. In the space the drivers would have taken, I am instead on... And I need you to not laugh here. Okay? Do you promise? You promise, right? Well, I'll cry if you laugh. I want a Dark Magician package. Basically, I wanted an engine that could provide tribute fodder, transmute dead draws into live ones, and could interact with a spent radiation, and a 5-card Dark Magician package of 3 illusion, 1 souls, and 1 of the big man himself gives me all of that. You'd think the Dark Magician is the weakest link here and can be cut, but it turns the entire engine into the most flexible package Ursarctic could probably ever ask for. With just souls and illusion, you can use illusion to filter bad draws back into the deck by trading them for a level 1 extender. Redraw of spent radiation, but that's where it ends. With a single copy of Dark Magician added, suddenly your options with each piece double. You can also trade bad draws for tribute fodder, and use souls as a non-tuner 7-star extender. Another massive advantage of not playing the drivers is that it removes your dedicated normal summon. Not having a normal summon means you can freely use non-engines extenders, which actually does come up a lot, regardless of what engines you're playing. You have no clue how crazy it is to be able to normal summon Ash or Maxi and make Barone if you brick a mid-combo. I do play 1 dedicated normal summon though. Basically, I was looking at my end boards and identified a key weakness, and that's that Ursarctic cannot beat 2 trap cards or a single spell card. The solution? We ball. Once it gets going, Ursarctic can just throw random bodies on the field like it's nothing, so transmuting them into a 2-turn Cold Wave to cover the gap in your archetypal strategy is pretty good. You can call it Windmore, but I'm playing Ursarctic. Let me have this, okay? Let me have fun. The other options I was considering were General Raiho of the Ice Barrier, Jinzo, Spell Canceller, and Light and Darkness Dragon. No, none of those are jokes. I didn't go with Raiho, even though it's a lower investment card and better as a plan B if I get interrupted and can't really play. Not being tribute fodder is a massive strike against any tribute summon boss for me, and it doesn't really solve the problems with the bears. by only interacting with monsters, and like I've kind of already identified that Ursarctic doesn't have problems with monsters. It has problems with spells. Jinzo is too narrow and too low level, similar to Raiho, but you know, I mean, I guess if I really want to ruin the day of one specific Labyrinth player, I don't know. Spell Canceller has the same level problem as the others, but actually is pretty solid because it does cover the weakness of Ursarctics consistently, but it has a massive issue in that it is symmetrical. Losing access to Radiation and the Tribute replacement from Big Dipper hurts so much that I don't feel it's worth going for. Light and Darkness Dragon was definitely the closest to viable Tribute summon I could have played because it's Tribute fodder, it's a really powerful interruption, and lower investment than DePaul. But there were just too many things that made it awkward. On paper, the standard bear board is entirely passive as it's skill drain and a really slow snatch steal, but in practice it's much more active as Septentrion is searching bears, Radiation is drawing cards and recycling resources, bears are activating left and right, so Lad telling all of that to just wait a fucking minute, holy shit, makes navigating setups way harder. You may think that that isn't a problem because Lad is literally 4 Omnis, but if there's anything Horus Stun has taught me in the TCG, it's that any deck worth its salt can break a Lad, and when Lad gets broken, he takes your entire board with him, so it better be worth it. The one nice part of Lad's Grave Effect is that it does trigger your mix, but that's a pretty cold comfort. Do you get it? The joke is that they're polar bear. So this first duel is one from the recent Duel Triangle event because I needed gems to fuel my addiction to Big Insect. This hand is pretty great because I have access to Radiation without needing to jump through stupid hoops, and Mick Billis lets me get my engine going without too much investment. I choose to chain block the Mick Billis with Radiation on the off chance that I draw into something better than what I already have in hand, and to an extent I kind of do, which is Mick Polar. Summoning the Mick Polar here is really nice because it guarantees cards. It's just cards. I get to search. It's great. I love searching. Here we grab Ursatron Alpha because if you draw Ursatron Alpha with Radiation already, you get to almost pretend that you didn't just go minus your entire hand to be able to summon it. I grab another Radiation so that way I can go all the way off without having to worry about running out of draws for my opponent's turn or for later in the turn. Polari here is really nice because it's also going to fix my field and let me get to Polar Star just in time for the Radiation to run out of draws in the tank. Sequencing the chain like this with Grand Chariot's on summon allows me to still get the draw while also destroying the Radiation. It's just a super stupid optimization. I go for the Polari again, the Polar Star rather, summoning Septentrion, and my opponent has a pause at this point, so I normal summon Ash in the hopes that my opponent gets greedy and lets me go to my open game state, and I can summon Herald and punish them. But then they nib me because they know what's going on. I fire off Radiation and still have an activated Departure, so I can go ahead and use that to get to Mictanus and Megapolar. Unfortunately, I think this isn't a game for the Wicked Avatar, so I just tribute it off for Mictanus rather, to draw a card and get back the Mega Billis that I discarded earlier for the copy of Departure. Drawing into Illusion of Chaos is nice because it means I don't have to sacrifice any of my high-level monsters to play through this Nibiru. I do book the Nib thinking that I'm probably not going to steal it with the copy of Big Dipper, but then I realize that actually I probably should. I'll use the Polari, or Polar Star rather, to summon Septentrion again to get the skill drain up, and in order to keep my opponent from just flip summoning Nibiru and immediately forcing it out, they are going to get Big Dippered, so that's actually our Nibiru now. Drawing into a Talents is awesome here because I get to look at their hand and see what they're weak to, and I'm seeing a hand that's really bad against Book of Moon, so I'm just going to go ahead and take their one extender. Shuffling back the Polar Star puts a Polar Star in the extra for us to use later, and when our opponent goes to normal summon Galaxy Wizard, I'm going to fire Mictanus, banishing a copy of Mick Billis to summon itself, draw a card, and more importantly, get back a copy of Megatonus. Megatonus is then going to book the Galaxy Wizard, and that should be all that she wrote. Departure pays for the alternate cost of Megatonus, by the way, which is really nice because I kind of do want to hold everything in my hand. Obviously, I'm not going to use it this turn because my board is full. I did fumble a bit by putting the Septentrion in the main monster zone, but, you know, it's just... Zone management is a major weakness of mine in non-linear combo decks. Talents draw 2, finds nothing, and that's the game. Ursarctic is definitely one of those decks that really appreciates Maxi being legal. Not because it's good into it or anything, but because if you resolve Maxi against an opponent without fear, you can pretend your deck actually works on turn 0. With Maxi, this deck gets significantly better. Kind of like Vanquish Soul, but if there was a gas leak in the office that day. They get to resolve a couple tier names, which is a bit of a pain in the ass, but they put back the Reinhardt that was activating to make Kitkalos, which, like, yeah, man, more power to you. I'm with it. They're gonna add Tearlament Scream. Hey, what do you think Tearlament Scream sounds like? And then when they go to fire it, I'm gonna activate Mictanus just to, I don't know, not give them the mills or something. Look, man, I had 3 Mictanuses, Mickeys. I had 3 Mickeys in my hand, and I'll be damned if I don't resolve one. They do get to Yoinky Splinky the top 11 and make a Barone through Destrudo. So, like, you know, my Mictanus Gambit did not pay off, like, in the slightest. In fact, I think it was kind of actively detrimental. I just kind of threw away some cards. I don't know why I did it. I really don't. Well, no, I do. It was to feel something. It was to feel something. They're going to use the Barone to pop the Mictanus, which is very stinky. Then go for Snow, which banishes 7 to summon itself, and now they can make Redoer. Once they make the Redoer, I get a false sense of confidence because of the number of cards in my hand, and just start firing off bears, trying to fiend out Barone. They don't really fall for it, though. They do tag out, but, I mean, you know, they're not falling for it. Brain genius that I am, I chain block the wrong bear here, and the Sharon is able to resolve. But I did just trade a copy of Megabilis for a Barone de Fleur, so, like, arguably, I'm not actually stupid, but actually I'm very stupid, because now they can make a copy of Kaleidoheart, or Volcalos, rather. But they make Lubellion instead, so we're actually never punished, because now I can use the Megatanus that I just searched off Polar to punish that, and book the Volcalos when it comes down. So actually, I'm a genius, is the issue. I'm actually too good at Yu-Gi-Oh! That's the problem, actually. It's that I'm too smart. So, you know, never punished, always rewarded, get her face down. The Redoer comes back, and in the standby phase, the Barone tags out into a copy of Fenrir after the Redoer steals just a random name. The Fenrir is kind of a major issue, so I just go straight to battle to kill it, and then force the Redoer to get the fuck out of there. In main 2, I'm going to start with Radiation, because Radiation is fucking crazy. Then go for a Polari. At this point, with the Volcalos face down and Scream not live, I basically have it. It's just a matter of finding the right sequencing to take care of everything. At this point, the only thing left in the tank for their end is Snow, but they have 6 cards in grave. One of them is a Snow, so, you know. Ursarctic Alpha with Radiation up feels amazing, except that I've already drawn Departure, and I'm not on Slider, so I will just grab another Radiation. Using Polari here to grab Mictanus, and then use Mictanus to add back Megabilis instead of going straight for Megabilis to force out Snow is pretty dubious, but I win this game, so actually I'm a genius is the thing. I summon Septentrion and then draw one more off the copy of Radiation, firing Departure, pitching the Dark Magician to grab a Megabilis and Megatanus. From here I can use Megabilis, tributing the Illusion, and this is the part where I actually force out the Snow. They do get to put up a small amount of resistance that actually does matter by using the Snow to book Septentrion, but they have to go so minus to do it that it doesn't really matter. But you better fucking believe I'm gonna use Maxi to redraw, because if I let them resolve a single special summon without drawing a card, I will cry. Septentrion does also get us a search, which is kind of poggies. We grab another tuner, and now that we can use Polar Star again to summon Grand Chariot, they're just gonna pack it up. So my opponent here is on Snake Eye, and unlike most Master Duel players, they do actually know the broken combo that lets them play through Nib. So unfortunately, though I have drawn Nibiru the Primal Being, it is not going to be a free win, as they are going to grab Temple, use Temple to place Oak, and if you play the TCG at all, you know exactly what's happening here. So they're going to summon the Flamberge and link it to IP, and you know, they're just doing everything. You know, I do choose to nib them when they summon Linkuriboh, which was arguably a major mistake. I shouldn't have let them get to Linkuriboh, but I'm gonna level with you. To a degree, my brain was fighting between using the Nibiru as a copy of just a tribute fodder, just another copy of Dark Magician functionally in my hand, and actually firing the Nibiru basically the entire game. You can tell exactly what I chose right now. As I fire the Nib, just decide to put them on exactly IP plus Flamberge, which, you know, is still a very, very solid board, but they don't have SP Little Knights, so it's a lot worse. They are going to reveal, though, that they drew into their incredibly intimidating, almost all Royal Rare Mikanko engine, though. I start things off with Radiation, which prompts an immediate IP into Apo, because knowing the broken combo does not make you a broken player. And with the amount of bears in my grip, I think I can beat it clean. When they go to summon Linkuriboh, I chain Megapolar to threaten having multiple beaters, which opponent negates, clearing the path for Megabilis to come down and check the Linkuriboh. It is unfortunate that we'll have to let our opponent get another turn, especially with how much follow-up they've just added to their hand, but honestly, it just doesn't matter, because we're going to clear a lot. Having the second body to check the Linkuriboh is so huge, because now we can clear the Appaloosa, and all we're dealing with is a single unknown set. When I go for Ursatron Alpha, I opt to grab Big Dipper instead of Departure, because I don't think I can guarantee that I'll have the materials to pop all the way off if I make Polari early instead of skipping straight to Polar Star. You could argue that with Polar in hand, I could have taken those odds, but I know my luck. If there was a way for me to draw Bunk off Radiation there, it would have happened. Grand Chariot does deal with the one unknown re-inning and the token, and finding Departure off the top is basically GG. We don't find it yet, it's coming soon, don't worry. See, there it is. We grab another Megapolar, which is kind of insane, because now we can just go ahead and use the Polar Star again without having to burn our Departure. And now we have the extra deck lock established. We draw another one off the Radiation and then fire the copy of Departure, grabbing Mictanus as well as a copy of Megatonus, so that way we have the Book of Moon for later. Mictanus tributes the Megatonus, and then, oh wow, I wonder what I'm going to add back to my hand. I do end up using the Megatonus though, just because I feel like it's better used now than later. I go into Polari and then use Polari to trade Mictanus out for Megabilis, so that way I can get the DD Crow that I missed out on earlier in the turn, cutting them on Linkuriboh and making my targeting protection live, or targeting effects live rather. Grand Chariot clears the field spell and my Radiation, so now I am able to draw cards on my opponent's turn and recycle the Megapolar. They're going to start with pre-prep, getting them to even more of their incredibly intimidating Mikanko engine. And then when they go to activate the effective ceremony, they mill Mayawashi Dori. And now I feel like the called by kind of has to be used on the Huli, because I can't really beat a Mikanko rather. They go Ash and add Jet Synchron, and then OSS away the Poplar to summon yet another copy of Ash. Then they use Poplar to scale Flamberge, and weaken Septentrion to go grab a bear. Our bear of choice here is going to be Megabilis. I feel like the DD Crow is more important than Megatonus' Book of Moon, for the simple reason that I can DD Crow to free up the call by for Snake Eye Ash or Flamberge effect, depending on how they play the rest of their turn. Megabilis checks the Mikanko stuff by banishing the Mayawashi Dori. In theory, you could have technically banished the monster, but it would have lost to stuff that I just didn't want to lose to. They use Ash to pitch Flamberge and summon Flamberge, triggering the Flamberge, and then we'll chain Big Dipper to steal the Flamberge, because I kind of want it. But I don't really want the effect to resolve, so let's call by the Flamberge as well. This puts them on a hand of Arabesque and Jet without their normal summon. Mind you, Arabesque would have gone kind of crazy if they had targeted the Nib or the Flamberge Dragon, but they targeted an Ursarctic, so now Grand Chariot gets to show them that they are fools, and negate the activation, sealing up the game. All in all, despite its flaws, Ursarctic is a really fun deck. I don't play very many non-linear combo decks, so something like Ursarctic is a really fun break from my norm. It's definitely one of my favorite decks of all time, but there is another archetype from the same deck build pack that I'm very excited to play again soon.